And I think in communication, when it gets really challenging, we stop seeing the essence of another person. We start getting more distracted by the BS on the surface, and we forget who a person really is. And we get seduced by their identity and their ego. And now we're speaking to that, and they're speaking to that. And now the communication is ego to ego rather than soul to soul. And so when we move beyond ourselves, then we can move into that deeper oneness. Then I also, moving beyond myself, I can feel a deeper empathy, an empathy for your humanity.
What is going on, everybody? Guys, welcome back this week to another amazing, very, very, very inspiring show of the Superhuman Life. As always, guys, I am your host, Frank Rich, and I'm so fired up for today's conversation, guys. We literally have one of the most incredible communicators and speakers in the world with us today. This gentleman has been inspiring and moving audiences since the age of 8. Guys, I don't have a lot of prep for today's. I just want to get into today's conversation. Obviously, the show is dedicated to helping men become better men by quitting porn and rebuilding their lives in the 5 key areas of life: faith, fitness, finance, family, and freedom. So if you are new here, thank you so much for joining us. And if you want to help this show by getting this out in front of more people, you can support us in one of 2 ways. You can leave us a 5-star rating and written review if you're getting value out of these conversations. We'd love to hear from you guys. We want to know what you're enjoying, what you're not enjoying, and how we can continue to improve and deliver more value to you so you can become the men that you were created to be. But most importantly, if there's people in your lives that need to be hearing these conversations, men, share them. Share these conversations on Instagram. Tag me. I will reshare this. I will get you some exposure. If you want to grow an audience, I will get this out there. But guys, we need to start sharing this message. We need to start getting this in front of the people and the men that need to be hearing these conversations. But joining me today is none other than Kute Blackson. Kute is a beloved inspirational speaker and transformational teacher. He's the author of the national best-selling book, You.Are.The.One, and his latest book, The Magic of Surrender. He is widely considered the next generation leader in the field of personal development, and Kute has been featured on Larry King Live, Fox and Friends, Dr. Drew, as well as Inc. magazine calls him the mindfulness guru Billionaires' go-to for advice. Now, Kute offers a fresh, bold look at spiritual awareness for a whole new generation. He was born in Ghana, West Africa, but his multicultural upbringing as a child of a Japanese mother and Ghanaian father has spanned 4 different continents. His unique lineage laid the foundation for his approach to breaking down barriers and unlocking an individual's true gifts to greatness. And in this conversation, guys, we really drive home the importance of speaking truth to yourself and speaking truth to your others, and how destructive it can be if we don't, but how transformative it can be in our lives is to begin to actually live and walk this out in our lives. We dive deep into the topic of surrender, which is obviously the theme of his second latest book, which has just been released in paperback form, which we'll have that link down there in the show notes. And then I asked him a really unique question, something that came up to me because I'd obviously consumed a lot of material. I've been studying and researching him, getting prepared for the show. But there was a unique masculine energy that I was feeling just literally right here through the video Zoom that we recorded this. So I wanted to ask him, how can we kind of balance some of this masculine strength, but then the feminine love side of these things? He's got some really powerful insights. Guys, men out there, this is a groundbreaking conversation for you. The women out there that are with us, this is a groundbreaking conversation for you, and the men in your lives as well. This is for everybody. If you're a human being walking this earth, you're dealing with these struggles, you're dealing with these challenges, you're dealing with these fears, you're dealing with these identities and these addictions and everything that's wrapped up in this world and in this struggle of just being a human being living in today's world. So guys, without further ado, let's get into today's conversation. The power of speaking truth to become the man that you were created to be, with none other than Kute Blackson. Hope you guys enjoy. We'll see you on the other side. Kute, my brother, welcome to the Superhuman Life.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah, man, I'm so excited. I didn't really know a lot about you before really diving in and preparing for this show. But as I've explored and researched your work, man, you've really changed the world with what you're doing. And I mean, I'm looking at your accolades and the individuals that you've spoken with in the media and the speaking. And I think that's where I want to start with you today. I saw somewhere that you began this speaking career of yours at 8 years old, speaking in front of an audience of, I think, 3,000 or 300. It was big, right? Sometimes a lot of people struggle speaking one-to-one, right? I think this is going to be a great entry point, though, into getting into the topic and discussion of fear. But you kind of talk a little bit about how you kind of got into speaking and why it's so important for us to be able to communicate our thoughts orally, because I think it's a great superpower that obviously you possess. Let's kind of open up there. How did what was
Yeah,
it like at 8 years
my
old?
speaking career began at 8. I don't want to make it sound like, hey, I was this great speaker at 8, because to be honest, I couldn't give a shit. I just wanted to play soccer. And I was tearing up. My father's a minister, and I was tearing up my father's
Okay.
shirt. So they sat me in the front row and said, sit here, put two bodyguards behind next to me and said, this kid's not moving. And one Sunday, I was asleep because I was bored, and I get a nudge saying, "Hey, your father's calling you on stage to speak." And he said, "My son is giving the speech right now. He's giving the sermon." And there were maybe 4,000 people in the audience, 3 to 4,000. It was a big crowd, and I really don't remember what happened. All I remember is words started flowing out of my mouth, and that was the end of it, man. Words started flowing. I started speaking, and people were moved, and that began my shall I say, my love, my passion, my connection with communication and speaking. And that's when it started. And I think, a lot of people think speaking is about what you say, and speaking is just about words, and speaking is about being intelligent, and speaking is about, the cerebral stuff. And I mean, it's great. It has a place. But what I found is, just for those that might be interested in speaking, a lot of people, I've spoken in hundreds, if not thousands of audiences at this point. A lot of people don't remember what you freaking say. They won't even remember what you think you gave the greatest talk. They don't remember what you say, but they will remember how you made them feel. They will remember the energy. They will remember the frequency. They'll remember your feeling. They'll remember their own awakening as you're speaking. And so for me, speaking isn't about being clever in words. It's not about standing in a certain place and a position and sort of this whole training that we have about speaking etiquette. It's about being authentic. It's about being real. It's about being true. It's about being you. It's about just you being you, however that is, because you being you will touch people, and people will feel the frequency of your authenticity. The words that you say simply carry the vibration of your consciousness. The words are the vehicle that carry the energy of your own consciousness and your intention. And so that's something that I would love for people to sit with if they're interested in speaking. And it's for me, speaking became a transmission and a way of transmitting energy rather than the words. And I think if you are rested deep enough in yourself, in your love, in your intention, and you have an intention to serve, an intention to transform, an intention to impact, and you come from love, then even if you screw up and say the wrong thing, you mess up and, you fuss up and you fall down, people will feel the intention and the energy behind what you say. Even if you say the wrong words, they will feel you, and the impact will go way deeper than someone who has the polished speech with the PowerPoint presentation and can do a kind of a TED-like talk that is so perfect and aligned. Doesn't mean shit at the end of the day, because nobody will remember it. To be honest, I don't remember a freaking TED talk. I don't remember. I went to TED, and I love TED. I went to the big TED, paid $10,000. This is not bashing TED, because I love being there. But I went to TED after about four talks of TED Talks. This is in Canada, not TEDx, like the big TED. There's, Google guy, Sergey Brin walking around, Larry Page, and all these. I left the TED Talk because I'm like, I could watch this stuff on YouTube, because for me, nothing was moved. The content was great, but unless you move people from your soul and your being and your essence, then it's just a speech. And a speech is just information. And information, because many of us, we know what we should do. We don't have to go to a talk. We know that we should give up, we should stop drinking, and we should stop being an idiot, and we should be nice to people and kind to people and love our spouses. Most of us, we know what we should do. We know how we need to make money. We know what we shouldn't do, but we don't do it. It's not information. Information is just up here. It has to reach in here. And so for me, when I try to speak, it's just coming from my heart. It's coming from my soul. And yes, it's great to have content, but this is the foundation. This is the foundation.
Yeah, I love that. Love that so much. And, it's something I've experienced kind of in my own life and in my own, career here as well. Like I've done all the trainings, I did a year and a half straight of 18 months showing up every single week to Toastmasters to learn how to stand and use the room and move and do all these other things and deliver and pause and all these little things. And I'm telling you, Kute, like my business and life changed when I stopped thinking about what I was saying. I've put a video on YouTube every day since July 28th of 2020, going on almost 2 years consecutively. People ask me all the time, Frank, how do you you do this? Like, how do you get prepared? And do you have, are you using screens where you're reading off of a prompter? And no, and you said something there when you got up there. It's like you reached a point when the words just started flowing through you. And that's what I feel like at this point now. Like, I know who I'm here to help. I know what my purpose and mission is as far as the calling on my life and as far as how I'm going to help these guys get out of this porn addiction. So I just need a camera, some lights, and then just let it rip. And some of the best content has come out of that. And many times, like, I'll get done recording, I was like, I didn't even know I knew that. Like, I'm shocked sometimes at what I say. So
there you go.
This is for me here personally. I'm kind of curious, like, do you have a process as how you get into this state of authenticity? I mean, you're clearly tapping into a state of flow. So before speaking, before getting on stage, like, what is your pregame?
Yeah.
Like, how do you prepare yourself?
Well, a lot of people don't know that I really prepare a lot before. Like, I give a 10-minute talk. I prepared 32 hours. And so sometimes I prepare a lot, not all the time, but sometimes I prepare a lot, because once you prepare, then you can drop the preparation. And sometimes I say nothing that I prepared. It's like, once the show is on, once they call my name, everything goes out of the window. I have no idea. And so, but I do think having a integrity with your preparation is key, because that just sets the foundation. You may not use it. So that's one thing. And then for me, there's a way in which, this isn't stuff I typically share, but since you asked, okay, there's a way for me in which, the entire, you talked about allowing things to flow through you, which really allows that you relax and loosen your sense of egoic self-contractive identification. Because the more you're like this, like me, Frank, Kute, me, I-ness, then you're going to speak from your identity. And whatever you say from your identity is going to be limited to your current, consciousness, conditioning, and experience. And so for me, the key is the more I can get myself out of the way, the cuteness, the personality out of the way, the more God can flow, the more life can flow, the more the divine can flow, the more my soul can speak. And it's not just me speaking from my mind, but it's speaking from the soul. And in that dissolving, and I'll share with you how I do it, in that dissolving, then there's no more you speaking and audience listening. There's just oneness. And in that oneness, the speaking and the communication is arising not from you, the speaker, to an audience that's separate from you. The speaking and the communication arises from the depth of oneness, where the speaker and the spoken to, the audience, exist simultaneously at the level of oneness. So the speaking and the listening arises from the one source, the one consciousness that we are all connected to at the depth of our being, beyond personalities. And when it arises from there, then somehow you know exactly what to say, because it's not you saying it, and you know exactly what the audience needs to hear, because it's not them listening, it's arising from the same source. And so to me, it's about getting oneself out of the way. The way I do that, I sometimes just begin to relax the edges of my body, soften the edges of my sense of separation. It's breathing in such a way that I can begin to relax my nervous system, relax and calm my mind. Many times when people do things like ayahuasca, mushrooms, LSD, MDMA, what have you, plant medicine, it begins to relax parts of the brain, and it begins to activate the pineal gland, which is that connection to source and spirit. And so I didn't know this, but this is something I've been doing as a kid, which I just spontaneously did, which was a certain way of breathing, just breathing in, connecting to this sort of point in the middle of my brain, which at the time as a kid I didn't know was said to be the pineal gland, is connecting to that point and relaxing that point and allowing that point to become activated. And many times I start feeling that pulsation in the middle of my brain through the breath as I'm breathing down into the belly, into the genitals, circulating my breath up the spine, connecting again to the point, imagining light coming into my brain, going into the pineal gland. And I start feeling like, people call it like DMT, that actual chemicals start flowing in the brain, relaxing the brain, everything starts dissolving, interconnectedness starts happening. And when I really feel like, okay, now I'm locked in, that's when I start speaking. It's from that place. And so when I speak, I feel like I am not there. And I think for me, that's my little preparation. I don't say routine, but that's my little preparation before I go on stage, and a prayer. And that prayer is an intention. And that intention is always, God, universe, use me for the highest good of this audience. Use me despite myself, despite my humanity, despite me, Use me as a pure vessel of light and transformation. And that's my intention in prayer. It's like, get myself out of the way. Use me. I'm here to be used. And so with that kind of intentionality sets the tone and the energy for the talk.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love it so much, and thank you for sharing something that you don't openly talk about a lot. And I think here obviously we're talking about speaking from a stage, delivering a message, speaking to an audience, trying to move people to take action. Like there's going to be a lot of people that obviously don't resonate with that part of the conversation, but I'm assuming that this is something that you can bring down into a one-to-one, right? Like, so how can one begin to walk this out like in just their one-to-one relationships where they're no longer speaking from their identity, trying to get what they want, and it's like, God, use me for your will, for your purpose, for your calling. So is there something
I think when you really first I'll just say in that zone, then it's not really communication. People call the art of communication. Communication is from me to you and you to me. What we're talking about is communion. Communion is oneness. And that's the real level of oneness when I can move beyond my own separate sense of Kute and Frank and Kute and Frank. And I'm going to, get you to see, and you're going to, it's just when we can just say, okay, let's drop deeper. There's no Kute and Frank. We're not really separate. And when I can start feeling beyond myself, feeling into you, not just as a separate self, but feeling into the depth of your essence first and foremost, and seeing that you are a soul and I am a soul. And at that level, there is no separation. Kute and Frank are just momentary costumes and illusions that are being played by light. And we are light and I'm light. What you are, what I am and you are is really the same consciousness and light. Kute and Frank are just the reflective colors. And so when we can really just remember that, then when I speak to you as, let's say, my friend, and we're hanging out, having a communication, when I speak to you, I'm no longer speaking to a separate ego. I'm not speaking to your ego, then I'm really speaking to your soul. I'm communicating to your soul with intentions. First, seeing who you really are. Because many times we see somebody and we see them as the collection of their bullshit and their patterns and their addictions. And it's like, I'm going to speak to that person that's addicted and they're messed up. And it's like, you got to feel through that, feel into them, feel through them, feel into their essence. That's what in Indian culture, they're like, namaste. The God in me sees the God in you. When we can really commune from that level, then speak from that level of like, I see you. I see who you really are. Yeah, there's this bullshit on the surface, and you got your shit, and you got your patterns, and what have you. Like you got your addiction, but I see you. And when we can hold that, and I think in communication, when it gets really challenging, we stop seeing the essence of another person. We start getting more distracted by the BS on the surface, and we forget who a person really is. And we get seduced by their identity and their ego. And now we're speaking to that and they're speaking to that. And now the communication is ego to ego rather than soul to soul. And so when we move beyond ourselves, then we can move into that deeper oneness. Then I also, moving beyond myself, I can feel a deeper empathy, an empathy for your humanity. Because empathy is to feel you, is to feel that connect, to feel what you're feeling inside of myself. And when I can feel you, I may not agree, but I can at least have the compassion for who you are and speak from that place, communicate from that place. And I think that's important. One thing I'll just say that might give people some, I don't want to say steps, but let's say someone's thinking, well, how do I have a difficult communication? It's great. That sort of spiritual level is great. But how do I start a difficult communication with someone or difficult conversation? I would say, number one, get into that heart space. Get into that heart space of feeling connected to who they are, to yourself, to who they are, and feel into their soul and essence. That's number one, connect to the love. Number two, get clear on your intention for your communication. What's your intention for communicating to this person for this difficult conversation? And then before you even communicate, you can ask them, is this a good time to communicate? Because many times we're communicating into a space where someone is not willing or available to listen. They're somewhere else. So create the context for the communication. Once you created the context for the communication, then I think it's important to let the person know your intention for the communication. Why that's important is many times we just say, hey Frank, I gotta talk to you, man, about the thing you did, bro. All of a sudden Frank starts going, into resistance and self-preservation, defensiveness. It's just ego feels threatened. Why does ego feel threatened? Because you, Frank, as let's say we're close friends, there's a fear of, oh shit, Kute wants to tell me something, and that means he's not going to love me anymore. He's going to reject me. I'm going to lose that friendship. And so immediate defensiveness, ego gets reactive. So when we can just create the context by saying, my intention for having this communication is because I love you, man. You're my bro. I love you. I see you. You're amazing. And I want us to deepen our friendship, our brotherhood, and you can communicate from that place. Like, I just want you to know I'm going to share some things because I love you and I want our friendship to deepen and I want to see you be the best you can be. Then the ego in another person can begin to maybe relax a little bit. Okay, they're not going to leave. The animal in us, okay, they're not going to leave. They're not going to abandon me. They're not going to judge. Then there's the space to listen and communicate from that loving place. So those are a few things.
Yeah, no, I love that. Love that so much. And obviously, I think we're speaking to something that's going to resonate very deeply with a lot of the men out there, right? Obviously dealing with the work that I do, a lot of these guys out here are in a position where they're already having some difficult conversations in their life, or they need to start having them. They need to address some issues that are going on. So I love what you shared there, as far as like in this community, we have to look beyond this person. We have to look beyond the identity, the attachments, the addictions. But I'm assuming before we can do that in the communion, in the communication with the other individual, removing their stuff, we had to do it for ourselves.
For ourselves, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Let's go there. That's where it starts.
Let's go there.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Well, here's the thing. The challenge is we are conditioned and we're programmed. I'll share a bit about how that happens, just to give us a context. We are conditioned and we're programmed. We don't know that we're conditioned and we're programmed. We think that who we are is who we really are, and we really believe the lie that we are, that we are this mind-body mechanism, ego structure, our belief systems. I'm not enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. We believe all of that stuff about ourselves because we've been conditioned from childhood. You see, when we were born as children, we were free. We were in touch with the free, pure, essential nature of our being, our divine self, our God self. We were like freaking magnificent, just full of light and energy. You look into a baby's eyes, a child's eyes, that's God looking at you. That's divine looking at you right there. But what the hell happened to us, man, that we ended up kind of how we are today, shriveled up and contracted and not open and addicted, and just we all have our stuff, traumas, right? So we're born these free. A child would jump on the table. Sing. It doesn't care. I can't sing like Michael Jackson. Who the hell cares? It's just being.
Naked.
It's not like, I'm a little fat. What do you think? It's just being. Unafraid. No fear. It's not even looking for validation at first. Just in the beginning stage, it's just being what it is until they talk, hey, you can't sing. Hey, put your clothes on. You're wrong. And so we start getting conditioned. So what the hell happens with these free beings? We incarnate into this human experience. Now we meet our parents. Our parents are just doing the best that they can do based on their upbringing, their childhood, and their ancestors. And their program, they don't even know their program. They're more unconscious than we are. Each generation seems to get better. And so their program, now we're born into a certain preset framework of dysfunction. Maybe there's pain, maybe there's hurt, maybe there's trauma, maybe there's abuse, maybe dad's an alcoholic, maybe mom has mental health issues, maybe they're fighting all the time, maybe there's sexual, mental, emotional abuse. And so two things happen. First thing is we learn to shut down, disconnect, not feel. Shut down, disconnect, not feel as a survival strategy to cope with the pain. As a survival strategy to cope with the pain, if I could shut down, disconnect, not feel, erect all sorts of walls around my heart, around my feeling, suppress this pain, then I don't have to deal with the pain. I don't have to feel the pain. It's a survival mechanism. And now all of the pain that we are suppressing starts to build up layers and layers and layers of unfelt emotion, feeling, pain, hurt, rage, anger, sadness start to build up, and our pure light gets hidden underneath all of these layers of unfelt emotion that we've learned to suppress. And then we learn to develop these defense mechanisms that we hold onto. We become tough. We become, aloof. We become independent, solo, whatever strategy we learn to do and we hold tightly onto it in order to never feel the pain again. Never gonna feel the pain again. We develop all sorts of coping mechanisms, drinking, porn, all sorts of addictions in order to never feel that pain again. And then we go into our lives doing relationships in a certain shape where our heart is closed, walls up, so that we never feel that pain again, wondering, why can't I open my heart? Why can't I love fully? Why am I sabotaging myself? And so then we go into life as well. And we start developing all sorts of roles and masks and personas, the sense of, who do I need to be in order to be loved and fit in and be loved by dad? And for me, as a preacher's kid, I had to be the nice kid, the nice boy, the responsible one, caretaking everyone, couldn't have a bad day, couldn't be off, had to be perfect, had to get all A's. Freaking exhausting, and we end up betraying parts of ourselves in order to get love, validation, and approval. So we contort ourselves into a shape to avoid pain, then we contort ourselves into another shape to get love, validation, approval, a mask, a role, a persona that we wear, that we hold tightly onto, that gets reinforced by life and society and media and everyone around us, and we hold tightly onto it, and it becomes who we think we are. And we think we are this pattern of conditioning, this pattern of pain, this way of being, this addiction, this trope. We think that's who we are. And now we hold tightly onto that. But that is simply our identity. That is our ego. That's ego, the process of identification. Now we're wrapped into this pattern of conditioning, and we go through life like this, wondering why we're not free, stuck in our pain, stuck in our patterns, stuck in our addictions. And so first, I think we have to just understand that we are conditioned and we're programmed. Just the awareness of, are you who you really are, or is who you are simply who you've been conditioned to be? Because the degree to which you're conditioned is the degree to which you're not free. We actually believe that this is who we are. And I'm saying it's not. But we're just unconscious, and which is why many of us, until we get enough pain in life, enough hurt in life, enough heartbreak in life, enough failure in life, life kicks us, in the ass, upside down, on the floor, that we're like, shit, I can't keep doing this anymore. I'm on my second, third divorce. I've lost all my money. What the hell's going on? Until I have enough pain in life to say, wait a second, maybe something's not working. Maybe I have to be willing to acknowledge that I'm conditioned. Then we start becoming aware of our patterns and our addictions and our ways that we are coping, and start question. It's scary to question ourselves because we're so conditioned and wound to hold tightly to this way of being. That's why letting go is scary. Then we have to be willing to feel the pain that we have suppressed so deep inside, and we end up avoiding or trying to avoid for the rest of our lives. That pain is often where addiction festers. That pain is where so much of our suffering festers. So we have to be willing to authentically process and feel that pain so we can release and let go of that pain. So I'll just stop it right there. I could say more.
Yeah, no, that's great, because I wanted to ask you here, like, so is the only path to and through this, then through that massive pain, or is there a way that we can get in front of this and avoid the massive, like, rock bottom moment? Because that's my story, right? It's like, lost a business, lost, hundreds of thousands of dollars, went through addictions in my 20s, conquered those, but held on to this one now, just like had its grips on me. And it wasn't until I almost literally lost everything in my life, literally business, relationships, family, all these things crippled before me. And I had this moment where I looked at myself, for one, because I was trying to put an unauthentic message out into the world, which I touched on a little bit at the beginning. And I just had this moment where it was like, it's either now or never. You're just continue down this path of mediocrity. Maybe something will come out of this, or you could take the responsibility for yourself. You could accept that you've gotten yourself into this position, and you begin to do the work. So is there a way somebody can get to this point without having to go through losing it all this massive pain, or is this just going to be a part of the process and experience?
There is a way, but the challenge is, because sometimes that conditioning, we call it ego, is so tightly wound, we don't. So if we're willing, sure, if we're willing, maybe someone watching this conversation that says, shit, these guys are right. There's something there. I am conditioned. And if we're willing to look at ourselves and begin the process of questioning, then no, we don't have to hit rock bottom. The challenge is sometimes our ego is so strong, especially as men, our ego is so strong to hold ourselves together that it's often when shit hits the fan and we hit rock bottom that we don't have a choice anymore to hold on. We've reached the end of our ego's capacity to manage and function our life. But you don't have to. So do we have to? We don't have to. It's often how it ends up being. But if we say, you know what? I'm not gonna take the path that Frank took or Kute took and hit rock bottom. I'm going to be a little more wiser. Maybe our next generations and our children can be a bit more wiser to say, you know what? I'm going to consciously, intentionally participate in the process of my healing before I hit rock bottom. Then I don't have to hit rock bottom. Then I can deal with my, stuff, my addictions, my identities, my pain, without having to go all the way down to the depths of hell. Yes, it is possible, but often it doesn't happen. But it's possible if we're willing and we're committed and we want it enough and we have that intention, because it takes work.
Yeah, well, my goal and intention here with a part of this mission in the show is to provide that insight, to provide these conversations, to hopefully give the man out there that is maybe on the, he's on the cusp and he's like, I like what he's saying over here. I can see where this is leading me down. But we're speaking to that guy right now. What's that process? Like, how does he begin to expose himself, ask these tough questions, begin to seek and work through the pain?
It takes doing that. It helps to have a coach or a guide or someone who's been down that path before, a counselor, to help you, hold your hand, hold the container through some of those scary feelings and emotions that might come up. It's like having a trainer in the gym. Sometimes left to my own devices, I'm going to lift the 9 times, and the 10th one's going to be hard. But when you got a trainer, they say, yo, lift some more. Do 12. I can't do 12. You do 12. Now do 5 more. I can't do it. I'm good. Now do 5 more. By the time you thought you couldn't do 9, but now you're doing 25, right? And that's what sometimes having a reflective guide, coach, trainer, healer, therapist, or community and tribe can help you navigate. A tribe of men, especially if you're a man, that doesn't mean you can have women, but having a tribe of men who hold you accountable, so that when you sort of start going into some of your bullshit, they look at you saying, hey, Frank, what are you doing, bro? I love you, man. I love you, but, and I see who you are, and I see you going down a path. Let's talk about this for a second, because the eyeball sometimes can't see itself, and sometimes we can bullshit ourselves about what we feel, and we really start rationalizing reasons for why we're doing what we're doing, justifying them, and we start believing them until it's too late. Like, yeah, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to buy that thing. I'm going to go there. Yeah, it makes it. And here's what. And then you do it, and you're like, shit, why did I do it? And so having the tribe of men, of brothers who can hold you accountable with love and provide that energy as masculine beings can be very, very healing and very profound. Many of us, me included, didn't have fathers to bring that masculine, should we say, accountability and discipline to the game. And so that's why that's important. Otherwise, left to our own devices, we'll just bullshit ourselves half the time. Brings me to my third thing. Where can people start? The thing that stops us from breaking through and the thing that stops us from transforming are all the ways that we lie to ourselves. As human beings, we lie to ourselves all the time for reasons that I've just shared about how we get conditioned. We're conditioned to lie to ourselves about who we are and what we feel from childhood. And so we lie to ourselves all the time. Sometimes we're lying to ourselves. We don't even know that we're lying to ourselves. We're not even conscious, but we're doing it out of conditioning. And so if you want to be free, I'm going to give you some questions. If you want to be free, it's going to take telling yourself the truth. We stay in relationships that we know are not right and aligned out of safety, comfort, fear. We work jobs that we know aren't aligned out of safety, comfort, fear. The truth will set you free. But there is no transformation without truth. And we all want to be free. We all want to be lions, not sheep, right? But many of us, we don't want to do what lions do. We want to be lions, but we want to hold on to being a sheep. It doesn't work that way. Freedom isn't free. Freedom requires that you let go of who you were. Freedom requires that you let go of that addiction. The next level of your life requires the next level of you, which requires that you release the old version of yourself, but out of self-preservation and comfort. Ego, it's scary sometimes to let go of who we were, because who the hell am I going to be? So we tend to hold on, and holding on keeps us stuck. So the question we have to ask ourselves, number one, is, and we have to be willing to be brutally honest with ourselves. What lies am I telling myself? Straight up. The truth will set you free. If all you do is tell the truth, feel the truth, communicate the truth, speak the truth. Your life will transform. Even if it's uncomfortable, the truth will set you free. Truth is real yoga. Truth is real spirituality. Truth is real religion. Truth is real prayer. Truth is real spiritual practice. Truth for me is therapy. Truth is the transformational foundation. If we started to tell ourselves the truth for real, which takes courage, so much of our problems, issues that we pray about and meditate about and journal about would start disappearing if we told the truth. Now, what I will say is sometimes it's scary to tell the truth because we're afraid of the consequences of what will happen. Oh my God, I'm going to get a divorce. I'm going to leave my job, but it's going to be too scary. So you can take the pressure off of yourself from having to even take any action. Just take the pressure off. You don't have to take action, but just tell the truth. The truth might sound like, I hate my job. I hate my job. I'm not going to pretend to be great. I hate my job. And just feel that. Don't bullshit about, well, yeah. No, I hate my job. This is not what I'm here to do. I hate it. Feel the burn. Feel the fire of that pain. Feel it. Breathe it in. Breathe it into your balls. Breathe it into your belly. Breathe it into your heart and feel that like, I hate my job. So many of the things we do, addictions, etc., are coping mechanisms for the pain that we don't want to feel. So, okay, I'm not in love anymore with this woman. I'm not in love with my spouse. You don't have to leave, but just feel it. Tell the truth. Transformation. Otherwise, because of the fear of the consequences, we play the game sometimes of, well, I don't know, a game of confusion. I don't know. I'm confused. I don't know what I should do. I don't know what my purpose is. When deep down, we have an inkling. We know, but the confusion, this game of confusion becomes a smokescreen, sort of security blanket from having to own the truth. Because if I really own that, I have a sense of what my purpose is. I might have to take a risk and put myself out there. And being in confusion becomes a security, a safety, and of always having the future fantasy, the hope of the future fantasy. Because I'm confused. I'm confused. I don't know. So let me just stay in my comfortable job. No, I know what my purpose is. I'm terrified. Great. Feel that. I'm terrified of taking the action, even though I have a sense of what my purpose is. Feel that. Let that burn. So what lies am I telling myself? What am I pretending to not know? And what is the cost? What is the cost of the lie that I'm telling myself? Feel the cost. It is painful. It is expensive. We waste so much time and so much money and so much of our lives living a lie. There is a cost. When we live a lie, it's meant to be painful. It's not meant to feel good. Like, yeah, I lied to myself and I feel great. No. Pain is a blessing. Pain to me is a divine gift. Pain is your friend. Pain is feedback showing you something's not in alignment. If we don't feel pain, we're probably not healthy. If we lie to ourselves and we feel great, something's not working inside. And so what we tend to do, as I said, is we distract it. We sex it away, drink it away, drug it away, porn it away, shop it away, work it away, just so we can numb the pain. Don't numb the pain. The third thing is feel the cost and let it burn. Let it burn inside. Don't distract yourself. When you let it burn inside, that will begin a momentum and a movement inside of you. It might take a year. It might take 6 months. It takes however long it takes. But if you have a therapist, a coach, a counselor, a tribe, and you start telling the truth, it's only a matter of time to transform. And you have the intention. This is why I say transformation doesn't happen without intention. I've worked with people from all walks of life. I've taken some of the most dire people. I mean, addicted to hookers, cocaine, heroin, gambling, all at the same time, rolled into one and transformed their life. And I always say, the number one key for transformation is your commitment. If you are committed, and this is why I ask people, if you really want to transform, if someone's listening to this, what do you want more than anything else? This is the question. What do you want more than anything else? If you really want to be free, nothing will stop it. But many times, if we're honest, we want our comfort more. We want our safety more. We say, yeah, I want to transform, Franco, but not more than anything else. If you want to transform more than anything else, it's like if I stuck your head in a swimming pool underwater for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. What would you want more than anything else?
Air.
You wouldn't want a Lamborghini. You wouldn't want $1 billion. You wouldn't want to watch Netflix. You wouldn't want to have sex. You just want fucking air. Just give me air. And so when we want to free ourselves like we want air, let me tell you, that's the beginning of some powerful change.
Wow. Not often am I left speechless here, but none of this is new here though, right? Like you're sharing all this and I'm thinking back, like the amount of guests and some of the people that I've been fortunate to have on here from the world's leading, doctors, neuroscientists. We've addressed, speaking truth and what it does neurochemically in the brain, movers and shakers and guys that move people from the stages, just like yourself, spiritual leaders, pastors, like the best in the world. And it always comes down to this one word, truth.
Truth, that's the foundation.
So none of this is new to any of us. So why? I mean, I'm probably just going to ask the same question here. And if I am, like,
because of conditioning, because of ego, because of conditioning, because of that grip we have on ourselves. That's why we have to freaking want it. We have to be clear in our intention. If we don't, here's the thing: if we don't deal with our lies, if we don't deal with those feelings, it will deal with us. That's the thing. You can think, I'm not going to deal with it. Fine, it's going to deal with you. It's going to deal with you in the form of backache, neck ache, shoulder ache. It's going to deal with you in the form of cancer, ongoing disease at some point. It's going to deal with you in the terms of your messed up relationships, breakups, and then and stuff, the dramas that manifest. It's going to deal with you in the people you attract that reflect to you your unprocessed, unconscious feelings and emotions. It will deal with you because you might just carry inside of you a low grade or high grade depression and heaviness because you're not dealing with your shit. You cannot escape the stuff. If you don't deal with it, it will deal with you. And so that's one thing. You think you can escape it, but you're gonna run into it. You're gonna face it in some way. And so why not deal with it? Why not deal with it and free yourself? And from that place of freedom, true freedom, inner freedom, be that lion. From that place of true inner freedom, like really roar, you're raw, because we're not able to be lions because we're stuck in our conditioning, And so, look, man, life is short. If you're afraid of dealing with it, here's what I have to say: you're gonna die. You're gonna die.
Speak to that, because I know this is something I've heard you talk a lot about. Is looking death in the face. I mean, I don't know. I think I heard like something you meditate on daily. Was that correct? Or
meditate on your death. Feel your death. So often we are so busy running away from death. I'm not going to die. I'm going to live forever. Look, Jesus didn't. Jesus died for a moment, maybe resurrected. Buddha died. Gandhi died. Mother Teresa died. Mandela died. Muhammad Ali died. Bruce Lee died. Look, okay, you might do 17 sessions of cryotherapy a day. You're gonna die. You can drink stem cells, for breakfast and do, red light bed therapy and have a keto. You're gonna die. I'm sorry, it's gonna happen. Biohack your way. It's gonna happen. This physical body will die. Yes, our souls, whatever you believe, our souls, infinite, beyond birth, beyond death, and next life, and afterlife, heaven, whatever your belief is, your belief. The soul is infinite, but this body is going to die. When you can embrace that, you start sobering up. To me, that's when you start becoming a man. When you really embrace that this physical body is going to die, I don't have forever. It's only when you embrace death that you can embrace life fully. That, for me, is the key. And none of us know when that moment's going to happen. None of us know when that moment's going to come. It could come like that, and we end up wasting so much of our lives, holding so much of our gifts back, living in fear of a future thing that hasn't happened, fear of what people will think, fear. We live in fear. But if you really hold death close, for me, I meditate on my death daily, feel my death daily, feel it, not as a morbid thing, not as a negative thing, but when I feel my death, I'm like, shit, I'm going to die. It couldn't happen. Wow, who knows when? I breathe it in. I breathe death into my being. I breathe death into my heart. I breathe death into my balls. I breathe death into my entire body. Like, tomorrow is not a right. Only tomorrow is not some like guaranteed right, like I have a right to another breath tomorrow. The only moment I have is now. And so when you feel your death and you hold it close and you make it your friend, it starts to free you. It starts so much of the things we are afraid about and worry about, waste time on. When we are in the face of death, doesn't mean a damn thing. In the face of death, we're like, why am I even worrying about this? I'm going to die. I'm going to worry about this when I'm dying. And so just that awareness can be a profound practice to awaken to the profound gift that God is giving us in this very moment to live fully now. And so, how would you need to live? What's unsaid, what's uncommunicated, what's ungiven, what's unpodcasted, what's unwritten, what's unforgiven. Feel that. It's like, shit, man, there's so much more I want to. My mother died in 2017. I wrote about this in my
Sorry
book.
to hear that.
Yeah, and it was really a profound experience because here I was running around, inspiring the world, which I still do. But I realized in the moment of death, I got to spend a year with my mother, and I got to be with her in chemo sessions and hold her hand for 8 hours. I realized I hadn't done this since I was 5 years old, 7 years old, just sat with my mother. I hadn't spent Christmases with my mother, and I got to just be with my mother as she made tea and as she cooked and as she cleaned and as she washed dishes. And I'm like, this could be the last time I see this woman ever again. Every text became so precious. This could be the last time I ever see my mother ever again. And my only regret, man, it's the only regret I have in my life. Why the hell did I wait till she was dying? Why did I thought I had time. I thought I had, I assumed, I took it as a for granted right. I thought I had time. She was gone like that. One moment healthy, then gone. And so that really woke me up. Like, we are gonna die. And what do I need to do now? How do I need to live now? How do I need to love now? So that when that moment comes, I have no regrets. Like, really, I can say, did the best I could. I gave everything. That's it. I can't give more than that. And so I would ask everyone, what would you need to do, say, communicate, so if death came right now, you have no regrets? Because when we meet our maker, in that moment, we can't go to God and say, hey, God, I wasted those 3 years in that job that was really BS and I hated it. Can I get a refund on those 3 years? Can I get a refund on that year I spent in that relationship that I hated, that I wasn't in love? It's gone. Death, feel your death. For me, death has been the reality of death. There is no life without death and no death without life. And just breathing into death and feeling it has been a real profound sword, in terms of my own navigating life.
Yeah. Wow, brother. I appreciate thank you so much for sharing that. I want to ask you a question that just something that's kind of I picked up here today, literally just in these 45 minutes of us communicating. It's not something I got from you, and I hope you're okay with me asking this. It wasn't something that I picked up in any of your other videos or talks, but what I'm really feeling from you today is this strong masculine energy, right? And obviously I prepped you. I told you, like, we're going to be speaking to a lot of men. I don't know if you've kind of like leveled up and elevated that up a little bit, but I'm really getting this feeling of this strong masculine man, but at the same time, like, we're expressing of love, and this is something like has been transformative in my life, is just telling other men how much I love them, how much they mean to me, literally expressing this both verbally, but also in the flesh. Like, I train with guys on a regular basis. Every Thursday I get with a group of guys, we work out, lift weights, fellowship, we bust each other's balls, we make fun. But at the end of it, we go have lunch, and then it always ends just with like, bro, I can't wait to see you next week. Say hi to the family, the kids, a love, a hug, like not a bro hug. Hey, come in. It's like literally like, I'm going to wrap my arms around you, and I want you to feel me expressing my love through my body to you while I'm going to verbalize it to you. So for you, how do you, I don't know if you're consciously balancing these things. I like, just talk to like being a strong masculine man at the same time of balancing this love and this passion and these emotions. I think it's something incredibly powerful that I'm getting from you here today.
I don't have an answer for it. I don't have a formula. I've always been pretty strong as a yang masculine man. That's part of kind of the energy of my father, but I didn't grow up with a father. I didn't grow up with a father figure. And so I just had to figure the shit out. For me, it was my mother that raised me, and I grew up. So part of, for me, the sensitivity and the love comes from being that little boy who was in tune with my mother's feelings, there for my mother, taking care of my mother. And that gave me, I would say that gave me a gift, pros and cons, a gift of an access to feeling the feminine, my mother, feeling the feminine, her moods, her emotions, understanding it. And then also maybe understanding those parts of myself, being in touch with that part of myself. And to be honest, I didn't really know in my early 20s when I first came to the US, I didn't know what the fuck it was to be a man. I thought, well, my father, the sort of macho, old school, my way or my way, lone ranging guy, is like, That's the only model I had, the archaic version. Like, my dad never said, I love you. My dad never showed emotion. I never saw my dad cry. I never got a hug from my dad. So there was a certain archaic mode. All I knew was the masculine was the masculine energy was sort of like detriment, destroying. It was painful. It caused pain because my mother was always crying because she felt my dad was, being his man self, being a womanizer, being this, being that. And so for the longest time, there was a part of me, in my early 20s that avoided fully embracing my masculine energy because I didn't want to be like my dad and the pain that my dad caused my mom. And I'm never going to be that because I had to be there for my mom and I saw the pain in her sensitivity. And so I think for the longest time, there was a little fear and denial of that. And part of the healing came as I forgave my father and I really grieved, the lack of my own masculine support and energy. And as I really forgave my father, and then I realized, wow, I don't have to be that. And as I also let go of my mother in a certain way as a little boy growing up into a man, part of that enabled me to embrace the masculine, knowing, oh, I can embrace the masculine energy, but it doesn't mean it's going to be hurtful. It doesn't mean it's going to be, competition. It doesn't mean it's going to be patriarchal. It doesn't mean it's going to be like that. I can find my own authentic way of being a man. And what led me in my early 20s, 21, 22, I did a project where before there was podcasting, I actually went and interviewed. It must have been 25 authentic men. And it was amazing because I got to interview like a lot of famous authors, Kenny Loggins, singer. Who else did I interview? Jack Canfield, Gay Hendricks, Richard Moss, many amazing, Charles Muir, Tantra teacher, many amazing men that I'd read. And I just said, hey, I'm this young guy. And for me, I got to sit with these men and ask them questions like, what is it to be a man? How do you deal with attraction to other women? How do you deal with like jealousy? How do you deal with, and I just got to ask all of these questions. And that was a transformative integration of their energies and their understanding that really helped me. And then from there, it just became embodying that, integrating that into my own life and finding my own way of being a man. And because I was no longer afraid of being my father, now I was no longer afraid of being my father. I wasn't suppressing that powerful masculine energy. And that's when I saw them come into balance. And so I think that was the integration. When I really embraced him and loved him for what he was, I wasn't having to fight that energy within myself.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful. So well said. And I think sometimes like the best parts of this, the best takeaways for the audience are the questions that you don't have the prescripted answer to, or you don't have the formula. And it's just, we're going to talk and kind of converse and hearing you say that, right? Like that's exactly what I'm doing. I started this podcast selfishly for myself to be able to have conversations with the people all around the world that move and inspire me. And I've talked about this countless times here. I've almost 3 years into this thing, hundreds and, almost 1,000 books consumed over the years. I've listened to so many podcasts, but it's actually doing this that has probably led to more growth, transformation in my own life. So I appreciate you sharing that. I realize I haven't asked you a single question about your book here. So with a couple minutes before we end, let's talk about, just plug your book here a little bit. I know you got a couple things that have just kind of come out with it, and then we'll bring today's conversation.
A little plug. The book is The Magic of Surrender. It's all about how to live surrender in life and let go and find the freedom. I think it's
the book that the people that, if the conversation that we had sparks some curiosity, it's a book that they need to go get to follow up some of the things that we discussed, right? Because I'm sure all the things.
The idea that surrender is weak and surrender is giving up and waving the white flag and it's passive and sitting around doing nothing. That if you surrender, you won't manifest your goals, dreams, and desires. And I'm saying no. Surrender is the most powerful thing that you can do. It's the key to your next level. It's the key to manifestation. It's the password to freedom. All of the great ones: Jesus, Buddha, Gandhi, Bruce Lee, Mother Teresa, Bob Marley, Mandela. They all surrender. Even freaking Elon Musk, love him or hate him, doesn't matter. This dude surrendered $200 million in PayPal, says, I'm going to invest everything because of a calling. To me,
yes.
The truly great ones in their own fields, they all surrendered themselves to a vision, a purpose that was bigger than themselves. They surrendered themselves to God. They surrendered themselves to their soul. They surrendered their egos. And in that surrender, they transcended their human limitation, and life, God, the divine intelligence, the universe was able to use them and flow through them. And so I think what life can do through us is way more than what we can do on our own. That's when we tap into another level of true power. And so the book, The Magic of Surrender, just to keep it short, is out on paperback May the 3rd. Get it on Amazon. If people want to find out more, if you pre-order it, if you get on Amazon, depending on when you listen to this, go to www.kuteblackson.com/reinvent seminar, and you'll get a bunch, and enter your name, your email, you'll get a bunch of free gifts, and we'll still give you access to the free seminar I did on May the 7th. And people want to know more about my work, 2 websites, kuteblackson.com, Instagram, Facebook. And if people want to go on a deeper dive, I do a 12-day event twice a year in Bali, www.boundlessblissbali.com.
And guys, we'll get all that information shared down there in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, it was down in the description box. We'll get the paperback on Amazon. We'll get the link to Kute Blackson, and then obviously the Boundless Bliss for your in-person retreats, which sound incredible. Kute, I want to thank you. I want to acknowledge you for the work that you've been doing. This has been an amazing conversation. Blew by. I feel like you and I could just go nonstop. I could talk to you for hours, but obviously being respectful of your time. So we have one final question that I'd like to end every single show with. Title of the show is The Superhuman Life. Usually I prep this and I kind of set up and explain what my definition of superhuman life is. I don't think I need to do that with you here today. So as we bring today's conversation to a close, Kute, how would you define living a superhuman life?
I think it's interesting. To me, living a superhuman life is in the surrender of yourself to what is super. The surrender of yourself to what is super, which is the pure essence of your being, to really, which is God, which is the divine, which is your infinite self. I think true superhuman, we all have the capacity for superhuman. And when we surrender ourselves, when we transcend our human and we enter the super, and that is where we tap into infinite possibilities, and the infinite potentiality that exists within life begins to flow through us. That is when we tap into the superhuman.
Love that so much. Guys, you heard it here. Start by telling yourself the truth. Start by full surrender. Ask yourself what the cost is of the lies that you're telling yourself. And the only path to creating your superhuman life, the only path to achieving everything you want out of this world is surrender. So for Kute Blackson, guys, we love you so much. If you're new here, thank you for joining us. Guys, we have seen tremendous growth in this podcast. If you want to help us continue to get this out into the world and as many people as possible, support us in one or two ways. First off, leave a 5-star rating and written review if you're getting value out of these conversations. But most importantly, if there's somebody in your life that needs to hear today's conversation, maybe they're going through some of these struggles. Maybe they're caught up in some addictions. Maybe they just don't know their way and they're trying to find it. Do us a favor, but more importantly, do them the blessing of sharing this conversation with them. But for Kute Blackson, Frank Rich at Superhuman Life, we love you guys, and we'll see you next week.